Hi everyone, welcome to calligraphy. Today we are doing our quote-unquote advanced class where we do not go over our workbook. We jump right into projects. We are going to start off with a warm-up drill. I'm going to work on just going over our basic strokes. Next, we're going to work on our worksheet of the month, which is the letter N and the word May, month May. We're going to do 2 of the handwritten projects. This was from last week. So those of you that were not able to join us last week, we're going to do that. We do have a second project. This month, I'm spotlighting the technique bounce. So I kind of try to incorporate the bounce here. So that's what we're actually going to be talking about today, going in details on normal calligraphy and some bounce calligraphy. Okay. So again, let's just start with this one. I'm going to grab some tracing paper. Just put my packet aside. So who's excited to be in person next month? I know I am. Let's see. Oh, okay. Also, I did forget to mention, have your tools ready. I always like to have a pencil, let me just show you real quick, a pencil. I always like to have a ruler, an eraser, a monoline pen, and of course, a flexible pen of your choice. I'm going to use the Tombow. This month, I'm also spotlighting the Kelly Creates. I did go over that last week, but I'll go ahead and talk about those again today. But this is what they look like. We'll go in details later on in the month. Later on in the class. And that's it. So let's go ahead and get started. Oh, and then of course, if you don't have anything printed or any writing tools, Crayola works great. Also a pencil, using a pencil to create light and dark strokes during calligraphy. So you can definitely follow along using those tools. And please do not hesitate to interrupt me at any time during class. I'm here to help you, and I'm sure your questions will definitely help others. Let me use a larger. Let's just go ahead and jump into the Kelly Create just so we can see how it writes. First off, a new thing I'm starting to add. Start before you pick up any pen, rotate your wrists. Give your wrists a stretch backwards and forward, because calligraphy is all about hand and wrist, arm, finger motions. Extend your fingers in and out. Just kind of wake up those muscles. Okay. And again, basic strokes before any project to wake up your muscle memory as well. We have our upstroke using the very lightest pressure, very tip of your pen, upward motion. You can curve it like this or just go straight up and down. A little out of frame there. Do a few more. Okay, next we have our downstroke using your heaviest pressure. If you're using a Crayola, using the edge of the pen. These pens are created to be flexible, so do not hesitate to apply as much pressure as needed. Holding the middle of your barrel will help create a thicker contrast. Next, we have overturn. Combination of the upstroke and downstroke. Starts on the bottom left, over, into a downstroke. Remember not to apply pressure until you are over the top. And gradually apply pressure on your way down. Ashley, is this color too light? How is the view from there?
It's a little light. I can see it, but it is
okay.
A bit light.
Yeah. Okay, no problem. I'll just switch colors. Let me just move over to a smaller brush pen. So we have underturn. Combination again, starting with the downstroke. Up into an upstroke. Releasing right before the bottom. And trying to keep it as parallel as possible. Let me do a few small ones. These smaller brush pens obviously are made for small strokes, not so big. I like the large ones when we're on camera. Okay, next combination of our overturn and underturn. More difficult stroke is our compound curve. Starting with an overturn. And then into an underturn. So that's one thing about these markers. They're a little on the lighter side. Compound curve, and then a reverse compound curve, starting with an underturn into an overturn. Keeping them as parallel as possible. I always like to start with warm-up drills because you just never know what's going to come out of your writing if you just jump straight into your project. Gotta wake up those fingers. Okay, next we have our oval. With our oval, starts a little off, over, and connect on the left side. So a little off to the left, an overturn, and an underturn. Oh, didn't like that one. There we go. What you don't want is a circle. You want basically easy overturn and underturn together, connected. That's really what it is. See that right there? Reverse oval, backwards. If it's easier to start at the top, that works fine. It's just a personal preference. I like starting it off to the side to avoid a point at the top. Okay. Next, we have our ascending loop. Starts in the middle, goes backwards into a downstroke. Okay, descending loop goes backwards at the bottom. Starts with the downstroke backwards and stop in the middle of the downstroke. There we go. And our newest addition to the warm-up is our comma dot. Just apply pressure and go right up with a little check mark. Apply pressure, slightly moving downward, and then flick up. Okay. Next, we're gonna just jump right into our worksheet. Do I have any questions before I move on? Maybe if there's anybody new joining us for the first time. If you don't want to unmute yourself and speak out loud, you can always use a chat box, and Ashley monitors the screen and she can always ask the questions out loud to me. So here we have our uppercase letter N, copper plate letter N. These uppercases are the same that are in the beginner workbook. On the very last page, I added just a reference guide to all the uppercase and lowercase letters, and I usually just pull from that. Okay. All right, so with this letter N, first stroke is going to start on the bottom with the little hook, go at a diagonal, just straight up. The second stroke, what you're looking at is the fact that it has a slight S shape. Oh, let me do that again. So kind of goes in an S shape downwards. And from just right at the very top to right at the very bottom, you want to have their heaviest pressure in the center. Pretty much looks like a V. So what I mean is when you begin writing downwards, you're not going to apply pressure right away like that. You're just going to use the very tip of your pen. And once you start moving, that's when you begin to apply pressure. And we are going past the baseline and using that empty space. So let me try that again. So again, we're going in a very like S-like motion, like that. This is a smaller brush pen, doesn't look as thick, but you can see how it just starts light and just goes thicker. And then from here, you just right back up, very similar to, I guess it's similar to the first stroke, but you're curving it, hooking it at the top, and you are going above the top line, a center line. Okay, so let's put those together. First stroke, a little hook at the bottom, steep diagonal, S shape. See, no, I don't like that. Just to point that out to you. That was way too thick here at the top, but I'm going to continue and I'll do another one. Okay. Give it one more try. Hook at the bottom, up with light pressure. And the S very light at the top and then heavy on the downstroke. Yeah, some of these uppercases are so complicated. That's why it just needs to be taught one at a time. They are so difficult. They are not easy like the lower cases. Tracing it looks better. Okay, next we have our lowercase letter N, overturn, and compound curve. Super simple. Slightly overlapping next to each other. Making sure the spacing between each are as close as possible. Okay. Next, we have what I would call a bounce letter N. So instead of going your entrance stroke going over, you're actually gonna begin your entrance stroke hooked under into a downstroke, and then your compound curve is going to drop below the waistline, I'm sorry, the baseline, and then kind of give it a quick flick out. Like that. With bounce, which I'm going to go into details later on, but just an example here. Just to give it more of a bounce look, I sometimes like to give it more of a point as opposed to a rounded bottom. So here, and that's why I said flick it out, because when you flick it, or let's say it like this, it gives you the V-like motion, V-like bottom. Okay, that's personal preference. I like it because it separates the traditional calligraphy to the bounce, and if you do it that way, it'll give it a different look. Okay, switching over to a monoline pen, I'm going to use my Pigma Micron pen, or you can use any ballpoint pen you have, or even a pencil. I like to do these fouligraphy letter N with no cross strokes. Well, actually, this is a letter that does not have any cross stroke, so it's pretty simple. Leaving it open, well, adding some little bit of color there. Okay. Last week we wrote the word Memorial Day. I can do that, or if somebody would like to shout out a request to fill in this empty space. If not, I will just move forward on Memorial Day. And then I'm going to give it a little bounced look, just because that is our technique of the month. I could have bounced that one down like that. that's better. Okay. Next we have the word May, word/month May. We have an overturn, 2 overturns, a compound curve, a oval, reverse compound curve directly into a regular compound curve with the descending loop. Put them all together and we get May. Reverse right into a regular compound curve. Oh, I did something wrong. Huh. Scratch that one more time. Overturn, overturn, compound, oval. So the underturn that connects to the A begins the double combination. There we go. There's actually 2 ways of writing that. You can skip out that extra loop and do an underturn and go right into a second underturn and exit that extra loop. You can say this is just a technical way of writing it, but this is a different way. And there's some people that purposely just pull those combinations out just so that it can look like that. Just 2 different ways of coming across an issue like that. Okay. We have May written in flourishes. My ovals, I like to never lift my pen and just do a double oval. So right here, my cross stroke, I lift my pen, draw my second line, and then pick up my cross stroke where I left off. Next, I have a bounce letter. A bounce May. Next, we have an expanded form of the word May. Expanded entrance strokes and expanded exit strokes, but the letters stay the same size. Okay, and then we have May with a little bit of flourish. Let me try doing it again without the background. There we go. Okay. How's everybody doing so far? Okay. Okay, so let me just grab some graph paper. Okay, so I'm just gonna go over a few key points when it comes to bounce. And then we can go over this. I did have this uploaded. I hope you were able to grab a copy. If not, this is something you could follow along, but I'll go over this once we go over a few key points. So with bounce, let me see what pen. I'll use a larger pen. Yes, so we have our traditional bounce, pretty self-explanatory. I'm sorry, traditional lettering. We all know. Super simple. This is usually my favorite style. Stops at the baseline, just follows the basic guidelines. But when you start to do a bounce, what you're doing is going below the baseline. And then let's draw, let's say this is the X height. And let's say this is the ascending loop, ascending height. So if you remember in the past, I've talked about our guidelines and how useful they can be. So again, traditional is going to just follow your basic guidelines, and as soon as you start dropping below, oops, sorry, scratch that. As soon as you start dropping below, oh, I'm so sorry, I'm missing something here. This is so sorry, guys. Let me do that one more time. Ascending, we have our X height. This is a baseline here. And then this is our descending loop. Okay. Sorry, I confused myself there for a second. So, as soon as you start going into bounce, you're gonna go drop below the baseline into the descending where it doesn't belong. So we all know you're gonna stop here, but dropping down into the descending area past the baseline, that's when you start to see sort of a bounce. So super simple, keeping that in mind. And then it goes reverse up on the top. So now we have some letters that go above the X height into the ascending zone. So for example, the letter M, up above the X height into the ascending zone, and then it drops down into the descending zone. That is the basic explanation of bounce. There is not a specific guide, I guess you can say, not a specific guide to bounce lettering. I like to see it as every word has its own bounce. And the reason I say that is going into my next pointer is you want to kind of keep it opposite. So it's going to start looking like steps. Up and down, up and down. Where if you were to get, like for example here, hi, I can easily drop the H and the I, because anything that has a rounded bottom, that's a good word that came out of my mouth. Anything with a rounded bottom and a rounded top is good candidate for bounce. But when you have them two underturns right next to each other, that's what you don't want. So you wouldn't want to bounce two underturns. You want to give it its bounce. Okay. So that's why I say there's not a written rule. Every I has to be bounced, or every H has to be bounced, or every M. No. So how do you figure that out? Well, sketching. I love sketching. I mean, I always talk about sketching, and especially when it comes to bounce and also flourishing. I'm going to just write, let me see, where the word write. So when I sketch, I would sketch is with pencil, but I'm just doing it with ink so that we can see it on camera. So you're going to start off with your base word. And then that's where you figure out, okay, let me see. I have about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 letters. I want to see dub this second underturn in W. Bounced. I wouldn't do it on the R, but since these two loops are up here, maybe I can go a little dramatic on the R. So then I want to drop the I, leave the T, and drop the E. So you see that there? So then I would trace it just for some handwriting practice. Trying to let my hands know where I am going with this word, and then rewrite it where I need it, following my sketch. Okay, and the same thing goes for the top. Well, I guess that's why I mentioned here on the top, I looped my R higher just so that it could give a balance here at the top. I went to a calligraphy class a few years ago. It was when I first started teaching calligraphy class here, and I noticed she did not do any traditional teaching. She barely even touched base on traditional writing. Like I mentioned here, this is what I would call traditional. That's just what I found easier for me. But after taking her class, I found, well, it's however you teach yourself. I've always mentioned finding your own writing style. And I realized that her writing style was bounce. Again, through more research, I just find that some people are really not too good at traditional writing. So without putting any thought into it, like I do here, they just go for it. And they just, let me just pick another, they just go right into it. And they go, oh, do a little here. Okay, so just throw it out there. Whatever your handwriting gets you, stay away from just the traditional and let your calligraphy flow. Me writing this naturally, I just thought that's another point of writing bounce, is actually creating the whole entire letter, either small or big. But I find when you do it this way, this is what I would consider more of a natural writing bounce, as opposed to sketching it and finding where you want it.
Yes, Rachel, yours is more deliberate.
Yes.
Is deliberate, and it looks better to me.
This one here?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're right.
But I understand what you're saying about, the person who did, like, for example, that one there. It has a slight bounce, but not as deliberate and not as pronounced.
Exactly. I guess it's a letter sizing. So, I mean, I wouldn't even call this bounce. I mean, I wouldn't even know. But people do call this bounce. If you look it up, they consider this bounce because it stays away from traditional. If that makes sense. As long as it's not traditional, it falls into the bounce category. Thank you for that feedback, Celeste. But yeah, I find writing it this way falls into, I found my own style. I like the way this looks, and I'm gonna stick to it. So I guess I would say this is just I wouldn't say the cheating way, but after doing so much research, I think this is just maybe you can maybe
call it freestyle.
Freestyle, yes, I like that word. Okay, that's exactly what it is, because they found that they didn't like the traditional way. So I want to say this is how the type they fell into. Let me try writing another one. I mean, I could let's write the word bounce without thinking about it. See? Exactly. I like that. I'm gonna write that down. Freestyle. That goes hand in hand. So yes, I like that. This is what I learned bounce way back when. And then this is, thank you for the word, freestyle. Not thinking about it and just going for it. Okay, so let me see. Any questions? Anything I missed? I'm trying to. Because anything, if I go further, then I start going into flourishing, and that's for another month. So I'm just talking about the height difference here on bounce. So let's just call it as it is. You either have bounce or freestyle as an alternative to writing your traditional calligraphy. And let's go into this sheet here. I'm just gonna write here on the page. Okay. Let's turn the word friends into bounce. So I'm just gonna go with my technique and try to figure out where I want to add the bounce. I know this is not bounce format, but I can just give it a little sketch over and figure out where I want it. The F naturally falls below. I'll leave the R up, give the I a bounce, leave the E. I'm gonna do a double bounce on the N, drop the D, and the S stays the same. Okay, so let's put that little sketch together. Okay. Best friends with the heart. Okay. So I'm going to try freehand on the sweet just so we could see the comparison. So we have, let me see, I'm going to go over the line. I'm going to do a smaller E and then a larger E and cross that over. So here I didn't even think it out, but we can just call it the freestyle. And I mean, every word and every person in style writing is different. So when it comes to those pointers, that's when it comes bounce. Okay, let's plan out the eyes, the word eyes. I would say E can probably go above the X height. Same thing for the second E. And I would just make a dramatic S because Y has a natural descender. See what I mean? Not every word is fit to bounce. That's why sketching it out and kind of giving yourself a game plan ahead of time. So let's do this. Let's give dramatic a game plan. Of course, D is natural. Let's do the A. Let's do a double bounce on the M. A, T will stay, I will drop, and C will stay. Okay. Ran out of space. We're gonna bounce that. Okay, close enough. If I was using a small brush pen, I would definitely have space. Okay, and I'm going to do another freestyle just to see what comes out with clouds on a freestyle. Let's do, without thinking about it, a small C. Bounce that, small O. Bounce the second loop. There we go. So we have bounce here. I said freestyle here. I tried to do a bounce. Didn't like the way that combination came out. Gave here, and then let's call this a freestyle. Okay, so that's what we have for our comparison sheet. I'm gonna move into our little projects. This one I did not sketch, I just wrote out the words. I did April and May in the capital letters. Here is my blank. I would honestly suggest sketching this one out. I'll go ahead and do that now, just because I found with these words, when I did not sketch them out, I ran out of room, and I like to stay within the cloud. So I'm going to just show you how I would sketch it out. Okay, I have April here on the top. Trying to stay in the, again, the cloud. I'm gonna make my A bigger. And remember the downstroke, thick on the downstroke. I like to keep that in mind when I'm writing capital letters. I know y'all can't see that, but I'm gonna try this one darker. Okay, showers, gonna give it a little bounce. Okay. So I try to keep my words in the cloud, but I did extend my exit stroke off the cloud. And then bring spread that one out a little bit more. All right, one more time. Right here. Okay. Here we go. And we have May. Flowers on this far right cloud. All right, I know it's a little hard to see, but I'm just gonna go ahead and trace right over. I'm gonna use blue today. So with every letter on these caps, what they would call caps, I always like to just at least have one dark and the rest light. These letters are big enough to even use a large brush pen, but then they'll take up too much space. Okay. This was a pretty easy one. May showers bring May flowers. Okay, so next I have this one. Have made the flowers remind us why the rain was so necessary. This is exactly what we're going through right now. Lots of rain, and I'm pretty sure our flowers are blooming. I know I have a new rose bloom this week. Okay. So on this one, I measured it out at 50. So 1/2 inch all the way down. So I'm going to mark the edges with my pencil at 1/2 inch. And I like to start at the color, not at the edge of the page. So I'll start my ruler where the color begins and then just go 1/2 inch all the way down. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, what I'm doing here is just creating my guidelines. If you're following along, I highly suggest just sketching out with the pencil, using a ruler and a pencil and sketching out your guidelines, because you're going, oh, no, here's a little trick. You're going to erase them later on. Just slide it down. So I went from one side and then just slid it down so I have the 0 at the top. Now rotate it back up and then just connect your guides. And again, I'm going to probably go a little darker just so it can show up on camera, but I suggest giving yourself a sketch. The pencil I'm using is a graph pencil, also known as a drafting pencil. I highly recommend using a pencil like this over a number 2 pencil. I find that these erase very nice. I love this ruler as well because it has the cork back and it prevents it from sliding all over the place. Again, don't go as dark as me. Just try to do a sketch where you can see the guidelines. Okay, I don't think it goes past that. Okay, so I have, what I'm looking at is 1, 2, 3, I'm sorry, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines that I need to create. So I'm looking for, let me see, 3 lines, make a guideline, and then I want a space. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have, start from the top. Oh, I ran out of space. So let me see. Did I do it? So I want to be able to have an X height. Okay, I think, okay. My top one starts, the first is an X height. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me give myself a couple of more guidelines. The bottom, so I'm pretty much just filling up this whole entire page. Okay, so I have the top space. The first line is an X height. Second line, you don't see that here, there it is, X height. Baseline, space, ascender, X height, descender, space, ascender, X height, descender, space, ascender, X height. One more, descender, space, ascender, X height. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lines. Okay. So next, I want to figure out on the first line, I'm going to start off by writing it traditional. And where do I want my bounce? So I'm going to change this into a different entrance stroke, ascender on the first loop, drop the compound curve, drop the underturn, and leave it like that. The T will become a bounce and the compound curve will become a bounce. Ashley, how is that pencil marking? Kind of light?
Yeah, it's really light.
Very light. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, flowers. A little bit better. I'm going to apply as much pressure as I can.
Yeah, I can see that pretty well.
Okay. So let's do. So I'm going to give the L a little bounce, maybe not as deep as the F. The O will stay the same, but I will give the loop at the top and a dramatic loop. Oh, you know what? Actually, write it in the regular way and then figure it out. That's right. Okay. So let me see. I'm going to drop the underturn on the W, drop the R, and a dramatic S. Okay. Remind us why. So I'm going to write traditional. Okay. Let's see. Drop the R, the first overturn over, drop the compound on the on the M. I'm going to leave the I, drop the compound on the N, and drop the ascending loop on the D. Let's see, drop the U and then dramatic S. So yeah, all my compounds. Okay. Why the rain was okay, so the TH, the way I like to do it is cross the T and go directly into the ascending loop for the H. So I'm going to drop the T as a bounce, compound as a bounce, R, bounce, A, bounce, and then the N. Okay. Necessary. So yeah, whenever you're doing sketching, you still want to sketch it with traditional calligraphy in mind, because if you just go and sketch it with your handwriting, it doesn't work. You want to always use your calligraphy, even though it's not thick and thin, you're still using your basic strokes to guide you. Okay. I'm going to erase. So this is the part where you want to erase it as much as possible. You're not going to see mine erased very well. That's why I mentioned sketching, so that the erasing is a lot easier. And it's a lot easier when you use drafting pencils. But mine is not going to do it because of my dark handwriting. And you could even go as far as erasing all your guidelines. Okay. So May 1st. So in this case, my brush pen is, of course, thicker. I forgot to mention leaving enough space. So in this situation, when I'm drawing my strokes, it's actually taking up more space. But just kind of look at your sketch and see where you're going next, and just use it as a guideline. So I guess what I'm saying, sometimes tracing it over your sketch is not going to align perfectly, but that's why it's a sketch, just to kind of guide you in the right direction. Okay. I want to also take time to just go over briefly what this Kelly Create pen looks like. That's why I want to spotlight a writing tool each month. I'm not telling you to go out and buy this pen. I just kind of want to show you what's out there and what I already have. Kelly Creates comes in 2 different writing styles. She does have metallic, I believe. She even has a whole line of smooth writing paper, but I have what you call the Dream Pen. These are double-ended, unlike your Tombow pen. With their Tombow, you have a brush pen on one end and a bullet point tip on the other end. With the Kelly Creates, she has double brush pen. One's bigger, one's supposed to be smaller. And then she has the small brush pen. The small brush pen is easily compared to the Tombow Fudenosuke Brush Pen, and also the Pentel Sign Brush Pen. Very comparable to those two. So I'll go ahead and compare a couple. So this is the Kelly Creates. And then this is the Pentel. So with the Kelly Creates, I found that it's more flexible and you really have to work the pen. These pen tails are more, I guess it's a combination between soft and hard, but I do have more control over the pen tail brush pens. I do like these pen tails over the Kelly Creates. And then you have the double-sided brush pen. So I found with the smaller tip, yes, you can get thicker brush pens, thicker strokes, but I noticed a big disconnect from the thick and thin. So you'll see that right here. So like right there, if you transition and apply too much pressure, you end up with the disconnect. And I think these work better if you I guess that's why they're small. So if you don't apply too much pressure and you control the thickness, it does not create a disconnect. Just going slow and controlled, which is the right way to do it. You can control that disconnect, but I did get a little bit here. So that's that. And then the large brush pen side reminds me and actually sounds like a Crayola, but you can definitely get big strokes. And again, very comparable to the Tombow. So we have the Tombow in class. So once we start back up in the library, we'll get to use this Tombow. Again, I like it. I wouldn't run off and get it. It's just a nice pen to have in your collection. And I always recommend Tombow dual brush pens as your beginner. I was just showing you what options are out there. This is the point where I'm going to ask Ashley to stop recording. And if you want to stick around to show me some work you did or ask any questions, feel free to stick around and chat with me. But